And welcome everybody to a special episode of Gonzo Film Reviews. I'm joined today by one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, Alex from Podcast Now.
Thank you
How are
so
you
much.
doing today?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You got me with Pirates 3, my favorite movie of all time. I've said that before in videos, but I really appreciate, you having me on and anytime we can talk about, film franchise or pirate or, this specific movie, I'm always in for it.
Yeah, it's such a huge part of not just my childhood, but also my adulthood now because I still love these movies so much. They're special.
Yeah. Yeah, same for
And
me. I mean, I started when I was just a kid. I didn't even watch one in theaters, and it's just, it's continued. I think that's what makes Johnny Depp over there pretty special.
yeah, I was introduced to him with DVR. My my mom it was one of the first introductions of DVR. Uh, one of the first things she recorded with Dish Network
Yeah.
satellite was the first one, and I watched it religiously with my sister when I was little. And yeah, it was that and Finding Neverland. They both just opened my eyes into like how much soul he brings to his characters, and hearing about all the things that he would do for people behind the scenes on set was just like really special too. He would always take care of even the smallest people,
Oh, yeah.
and it's everything about this series I think is just rare. Like it's rare that you have this production value. It's rare that you have so much practical sets. Like they built entire pirate ships for this,
Yeah.
and it's rare that you have people on set who aren't, divas.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's what they did with this film, and that makes it kind of almost like bittersweet. The 4 and 5 obviously have its fans and its critics and its haters, and those are probably two separate groups because there are legitimate problems. But that
Hmm.
trilogy, I mean, you can never do it again. You could argue, could you ever give him a proper set? I mean, I want him back for a six. I doubt that ever happens, but could you
Yeah,
ever even match three? At this point, three was just such a perfect send off for literally everybody, including him, Jack. And, then you continue it with 4 and 5, and now you're up again where it's like, well, we didn't give him this send off, right? But that send off was tremendous. So, you can never, and three specifically, for this movie, what they did in three still holds up today, whether it's the CG or the fights or it's such an incredible. They did Avengers before Avengers. Dead Man's Chest is literally Infinity War. It's going
yeah,
after a specific item. Both sides are racing for it. And you could argue three is kind of like the end game of Pirates, and I I think it's better. I like it better.
I definitely agree. Yeah, they had so much heart and soul in them too, and so much hilarious comedy, and
Hmm.
they really brought everything together. The writers did an incredible job. Like hearing about their deadlines
Oh yeah.
and how quickly they had to make sequels to something they never wanted sequels to
Hmm.
was crazy because they managed to tie in so many things together to make everything connect. Like the sword that Will makes in the first one ends up being what is driven through his heart that kills him in the third one.
Hmm.
And the people that you meet in number one, they come back in amazing ways in number three. Like everything tied together, and
Yeah.
so many things that you learned about turned out to not just be throwaway little pieces of lore. They turned out to be direct props in the third one, like his medallion on his bandana, Jack.
Yeah.
Turned out to be his piece of eight. He was a pirate lord.
Yeah.
You know, the wooden eye was Barbossa's piece of eight. It's crazy how many things they managed to tie together.
Right.
And I love how they elected Elizabeth to be the king of the pirates. It's
Hmm.
just it was such a perfect culmination of her arc from, scared, rich, almost spoiled daughter of a governor to fending for herself and literally taking over the um, the politics of the pirates. And it was just so cool to see
Yeah.
everybody have their own journey.
And it was done right. I don't know, not to get too controversial, but like nowadays, in terms of race swapping or gender swap and doing it purposely for that reason. I'm not saying, you can never do it, but when you do it for an agenda, right? Hollywood are doing it for an agenda, like you'd think that you would go back to, or more people would, and I think you and I probably have. Like you go back to 3, like that's how you do Elizabeth, right? That's how you do her, where it's yeah, there's an arc, a very clear arc. She is not perfect. She literally kills our hero. You know what I mean? It's like she goes
Oh yeah.
through and she becomes, like you said, she literally is like the most well in 3. She is the most important person in my opinion. You know, she is the main character. I've always said that Elizabeth, that's her movie. So it's insane, you know, how they managed to pull that off and create a character that I don't think was super liked, you know, in 1 and 2. I think she was probably the least liked of the 3, you know, Will, Jack, and her. And then she becomes, and she does it organically. Like she becomes, you know, nowadays she'd become the pirate king just because she's a girl, right? And we need to prop that up. But
Yeah, the story starts off with that.
right, that's the point. Not, but back then it was no. This makes complete sense. You understand it. She was with Sao Fang, you know, when he like all of this stuff. Like it makes total sense that this happened. So yeah, they and like you said, things organically, all of that. She organically went there. The pieces of 8, like they didn't have to do that, and I'm sure they did not plan that. You know, when they introduced these things in 1. But yeah,
Hmm.
they got big. The world got big. The lore got bigger. They started to establish themselves as a franchise, but a very you know, for as like messed up as Jack Sparrow is, you think of him as the lead, like it was very organized. It was an organized, big universe that they created. Even in 4 and 5, I would argue that things are pretty tight in the Pirates lore. You know what I mean? It's and that's a testament to them because you look at Marvel now and things aren't lining up, right? Things aren't working and that's going to happen when you make 50 movies, you know, when you make so many movies and shows and stuff. But Pirates nailed it, especially back then for 3.
Yeah, it was gorgeous, and I think that there's a huge disconnect now because you'll have them people like Kathleen Kennedy starting at that point.
Hmm.
Like they have the ambitions of a character like Elizabeth, and I find it ironic that when you have these male writers, a team of male writers, a male director, a lot
Producer
of
Jerry
producers that
Bruckheimer.
are male. Yeah,
Yeah.
they created probably the most inspiring female character in an action movie I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
But then you have these women coming in saying, like Kathleen Kennedy saying like women should be in charge of things like directing and everything. And I say, that's great. I agree with that. Like there should be opportunities for everybody.
Hmm.
But then they get that one in a million, chance. They get that opportunity of a lifetime and they blow it. They make Ray and they
or
they
they
make like
make
a
or Margot Robbie's version, as we've heard her say, right? That we're finally going to see strong females in Pirates of the Caribbean. Have you not watched the movies?
ugh.
Obviously, no, because Elizabeth is the main character of 3. She's very strong. She never was really weak, I'd argue, even in 1. Um,
No, she never was.
you know,
She held her own against undead pirates.
yeah, 4 had well, I'm not a fan of Angelica. She was equally as important in 4
But
as
yeah,
Jack
but she
was.
does still prove your point. Yeah, yeah.
Right, and Karina in 5 is actually my favorite character besides Barbossa. She is the she's the main character and she's the best character in 5. So yeah, I don't understand what I like Margot Robbie as an actress, but as a
Hmm.
speaker, I don't think it's going to work out very well. But yeah, but all those things right are a testament to how much they nailed. Because you look at 4, even you look at 4 and you look at 5, and you say, wow, like this is not 1 through 3. It's not 3 in particular. Even if 4, 5, 6, or if they made a 6, I don't know if you'd ever, even back then, 2017, 5 comes out. I don't know if you could ever make a 6 that would even come close to a 3. And maybe they were trying because they do bring back, Will, Elizabeth, and Davy Jones. So they were trying to do 3 again, which is not a bad idea. But because, as you and I talked about off camera or off air, the critics, while the critics hated 3, I think it's a much loved. I think 1 probably unanimous. I don't. I actually prefer 3 over any of them. But I think
Yeah,
overall 3 is probably the second favorite besides 1. I'd argue from like the vast majority of people.
that's what I've seen too. I see people really loving 2 and 3 as one unit.
Yeah, yeah.
I've noticed a lot of people because they were shot back to back, and that was my experience too as a kid. I
Hmm.
saw 2 in 2006, and I was just blown away, but I was also just traumatized
Yeah.
because of
Oh
the
yeah.
ending.
Well, did you
And
think they were gonna like? Were you question? Because I was questioning. I saw it at a drive-in. Okay, I was at a
ooh,
drive-in, and I was like, when is Davy Jones gonna fight? He's like, he wasn't, and I was like, are they gonna like what happens? And then like, yeah, the ending happens. I was, and I was so young. We're maybe this. I don't even know how old you are, but we're probably the same age or close. I was like, well, are they gonna solve this in the third one? I didn't know it was back to back. I didn't know there was gonna be one the next year. And I saw the
Yeah,
trailer, and the trailer for three is one of my favorite memories, literally of all time for anything, not entertainment. Just watching it on the dial up, on the computer, and when the camera spins when Jack and Davy Jones are fighting on the Flying Dutchman. I mean, that's one of the coolest scenes in any movie, but also that in the trailer, it was like, well, we finally freaking get it. I mean, it's Davy Jones. I just loved him so much in two. And then seeing in the trailer for three that they were going to have some sort of sword fight, I was like, oh my, like I remember I bookmarked it, I saved it. And I would watch that trailer literally every day for three.
yeah, his art, David Jones was it was so powerful because you could just see how far he was getting pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And it did finally get to the point where he was drawing swords and trying to kill mortals. He was just so done.
Yep.
And his Kraken was killed in the third one. We didn't even see that on screen.
Yep.
Like um that's how influential Beckett was because he just basically said, "Kill it," and
Yeah.
it's gone. We don't see a giant battle where it fights for its life. No, it just flops up on a beach and dies. And
Yep.
then you get that philosophical discussion between Barbosa and Jack, where
Oh, that's,
Barbosa was
yeah,
saying,
so good.
like, are you still thinking of running?
Yep.
This problem with being the last of anything is that, once you're gone, that's it.
Yeah. Oh my
And
god. I
then
mean, there's just
Jack was
so many
saying,
of those lines. Yeah, that, I mean, that in particular, and the world shrinking and all that kind of lingo that they were using too, like the last of the pirates. I mean, every scene in three is so special. And
yeah,
I think it works away from two, but I do agree. I mean, they're companion pieces. I think two needs three more than three needs two, personally.
very
But
true,
you know what I mean?
very
But
true.
and that's just because of the grand feel of three, but they definitely belong together. And no, you're right. I mean, the Kraken thing, I remember, and it's such a weird, and like it's a special thing. It's a good thing when like they say it and you almost don't even think like, oh shoot, I would have liked to see, like maybe you do, but like it's just so like you said, so powerful, so like it just makes a point for Davy Jones where you don't even question it. You don't say like, oh man, like I'm gonna dock points because I didn't see this Kraken fight. It's like, no, this is what happened. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're his servant. Not really even your fault. Like this stuff is all just happening to you. Davy Jones is really the victim here in two and three.
Yeah,
Started by
because
started by Jack.
Norrington stole his heart. Yeah,
Yeah, and really, and I've always said this, right? He just was collecting his debt. Now, yes, he over time became a heartless individual, right? But he makes deals with everybody. So like the deal with Jack, it was Jack's fault. Ultimately, you know what I mean? Ultimately, he was collecting his debt. He gave Jack the pearl and he said, in this time period, I'm coming back for you, or I'm going to take it back. And Jack didn't want that. And of course, we understand and agree with the protagonist, but that's what they, so really, I mean, what I mean? That kind of starts the whole thing. And really immediately Davy Jones is the villain, but you understand the whole time, you understand his character, even the beginning, even that. It's like he's just collecting a debt that you very clearly see. Yes, he's cruel and he makes these debts kind of unfairly, but that's what he does, and you agreed to it. You agreed to the pearl, so he's just coming to collect, and so it's your fault.
yeah, and I love the history that he has with Davy Jones. It goes all the way back to his childhood, and
Hmm.
there are books about the young life of Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
And the writers, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, in their audio commentary for Dead Man's Chest, they did a really great job of explaining the reason that Davy Jones is so obsessed with Jack's soul, and the reason that he says, when Jack says, we've established that me trying to trade Will for my soul is sound in principle, so now we're just haggling over the price. They said that the reason that Davy Jones said 100 souls in 3 days was because he just wants Jack. He doesn't give a damn if there is an equal payment. He just wants to get back at Jack for whatever Jack did to spite him in his childhood.
Yeah.
And it's really funny too because he's a debt collector, but he's really harassing one patron, this one guy.
Yeah.
He's really trying to get that dude's soul, and it's really funny because he does neglect his duty. He doesn't ferry the souls, and
Right.
he turns into a monster, and he just tries to collect people to serve on his ship rather than take them from the land of the living to the dead if they
Right.
died at sea.
But even
And
that has
so,
its
yeah,
reasoning that you see in 3, right? Even that has its backing of his heart was broken, his heart
yeah,
was
because
taken from
one of the most powerful person in this universe, to an extent, Calypso,
him. Mhm.
another one of the spectacularly written female characters,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they were working on.
Yeah.
uh, uh, Maybe you should watch Margot. um, she ruined him, and it was really. I don't mean to tie into real world events too much, but it did kind of have a Will Smith, Jada Pinkett kind of vibe. Like she would tell him to be somewhere, he would go there like a puppy, and then she wouldn't show up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he would get mad and take it out on other people like Chris
And you
Rock. So it's
but and
like,
you
yeah,
also kind of understood her too, where she's like, "It's just the way that's basically her explanation, right? It's just the way it is.
yeah,
It's the way that I am."
I'm
And you
benevolent.
know what I mean? And we fell in love with each other, you fell in love with me, and that's just the way it is, and it broke him. Man, a prequel Pirates movie or show, Disney Plus series with Davy Jones as a human for, Brethren Court, locking her
Oh,
up. That would be so good. I don't know, who needs to hear that, to make it happen, but it's an easy idea. We already have the backing for it, or like the basis of, of what happened. You just have to get there. So, everything has its purpose in this. Davy Jones, we talked about Elizabeth. Davy Jones is, in my opinion, the best villain ever created. Um, Maybe Darth Vader, but maybe besides that, I mean, he's just so perfect where you understand him. The idea of love is so powerful, the heart, right? That I mean, it's like a universal concept. So it works. And I've seen like essay series on YouTube where people kind of say like they almost accidentally did this to themselves, where it's like they wrote this character. It's a pretty simple concept, the idea of love and betrayal and all this stuff, and it just works so well that it was almost an accident that you write it like this, and you just have to kind of fill in the blanks, and they did, and that's all you have to do, and then you've written really a perfect villain, and a perfect character.
yeah, and it fit Will like a glove because it was so interesting to see how his attitude and his lines changed once he became the next captain of the Dutchman because he suddenly had this huge shift in characterization that it made sense, but it was still really profound where he was suddenly, he put his heart into the same chest and he gave it to Elizabeth and he was saying things like, it's all he said the exact same words as David Jones, like it's always belonged to you
Yep.
and will you keep it safe? And she actually does, unlike
Unlike,
Calypso, but
yeah,
yeah, it's just it's amazing to see what it was supposed to be because
right.
Calypso wanted someone to do a job, and her personal issues got in the way of that. Davy Jones's issues got in the way, but it's so wholesome to see a couple doing it right. Will doing the actual job and Elizabeth protecting his
Yeah,
heart from anybody who would try to take his place, and just for the immortality aspect.
yeah, and
And
it
that was another thing in Pirates. Like there are two beautiful things in the third one. One is the reason that David Jones is such a great antagonist is that when you have protagonists and antagonists that are all or mostly pirates, it's an amazing chance for the greatest conflicts because, yeah, like you said, sometimes it's the protagonist's fault that they're even in this situation. They
mhm,
struck a deal with the devil. And so you can't necessarily blame the antagonist half the time.
right.
And then the other thing is the themes of the third one were just crazy. You had love, and then Hans Zimmer created that beautiful score because he was inspired by the theme, and that's where that amazing violin piece came in that you would hear a bunch of times through the film, especially with the Will and Elizabeth scenes.
Mhm.
And there was the immortality theme where Jack was struggling with the idea of
Yeah.
like, I want to live forever. I want to be,
Oh my god.
immortal, but do I
I
want
almost
it that way?
forgot. Like, again, like, everything is so perfect. Yeah, that wasn't like, that was a big theme, but I wouldn't even say that was, like, the biggest one, and yet think about how, how perfect of a theme that is. This guy who is larger than life. Now, I think they played that into the monologue he had at the end of 4 a little bit more, in terms of,
Hmm.
like, his longevity, but it really, I think, started in 3. Yeah, where it's like, you living forever, like, what does that really mean? Do I wanna do it? And my God, and struggling, and somebody like a Jack Sparrow, struggling with that as it's happening all around him, and he's seeing different examples of how it plays out. Like it's just insane that was kind of his internal theme and the movies in general. But it wasn't even the only one. That was one of many themes that was
Yeah.
happening throughout the whole film.
I think there's a little bit of a 4D aspect to that as well. I read between the lines, and I kind of think that the crew kind of started understanding that what they created was with Johnny was such a huge
Right.
impact. He kept getting voted through the 2000s as the most influential or the most liked action character.
Yep.
He was up there with Indiana Jones and Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan and
Mhm.
all these other characters, and it was crazy. James Bond, he was topping Bond, and once they realized that, I think that's when a lot of those sessions came out in the writing because they were probably thinking things like, he he will live forever, but he can never really be recast. Like
Right.
nobody can be Jack except for Johnny. So it's like
Right.
I think they
Exactly.
were
Yeah.
kind of almost monologuing in a sense where they were saying
Yeah.
like we all created, especially Johnny, but we all kind of had a part in creating something culturally significant that's never going to die. And,
Yep.
we can never really recast him or do it again. So how can we make him live forever in a way?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was manifesting that struggle in the film by saying, do I want to stab his heart and be bound to this stupid ship and be immortal, or do I want to try to find another way? And he found another way
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
four, but yeah,
Yeah, that's
it was so
it was
profound.
spoken more in 4, or even, like, it's not so much the destination so much as is the journey. I think he said that in 4. It
Yeah.
was a lot more spoken in 4 than 3, but 3 was more of, internalized the idea of a heart and the idea, of servitude and all that stuff like that. It was a little bit more hidden, and I think it was better, because of that, but, um, it's just so special, and it reminds you, when you're going back to watch this, you're like, you guys did it. You did make something. You made a film franchise, like or hate, 2 through 5, really, right? Because everybody, people have problems here and there with everything besides one, I guess. But you made something that'll always, be special to people. That'll always live up. Jack Sparrow is, an equivalent to, like you said, those kind of those characters. I mean, he just is that important to people.
Yeah, and the philosophy at the end of four was amazing because he was coming to the realization that he doesn't need to physically,
Right.
live forever. And his dad kind of said something in the third one about that.
Yeah.
It's not just about living forever, it's living with yourself
Yeah. That's
forever.
that's a
And then
great
at the end
line.
of the fourth one, he came to, I think, his biggest conclusion of the whole series after building up over time was that every morsel of your infinite being is just alive to the infinite mystery of everything when you don't know whether you're going to live or die in the next minute, the next hour or day. And it made life more exciting for him.
Right.
And, he was saying, like, who is to say I won't live forever now? I'm the discoverer of the fountain of youth. I am the man who helped defeat Davy Jones. I defeated the East India Trading Company and saved, piracy for a few more years. I kept freedom alive for just a little longer, and you know, it's really cool to see all that come come to a natural fruition. And it's just a lie to say that these are just random movies and oh, I can't believe there's another one. It's a theme park. It's like the people who say things like that, the surface level criticisms, they didn't watch the films at all. They didn't listen to the characters. They didn't see the story progressing from one to five.
Right. Yeah, and 3 is such an important. That's why, we said, I don't understand how 3 has such a low rating. It'll always be my favorite. It always has been my favorite ever since I watched it, and I get it, it's big, and I remember I so if it was 15 years ago, right, because we're 15, so I was 10
Yep.
turning 11. I was about to turn 11, and I had no idea what was going on. I will be very honest, like, I had no he was striking deals. I remember when he was talking with Beckett with that whole thing where he was just going to lead him. He was swapping his place, right? Or swapping somebody else's place in terms of being that guy, or swapping Will's place. And
Yeah.
I just remember having no clue. Like at that point, that was a great speech. And and obviously the deleted scene with the what men aren't cargo, right? That line. I mean,
Oh
that
yeah.
line should have been in that film. But
100%.
that scene was still so good. And I remember, laughing, and then he goes up and shoots the cannon and all that stuff. And it's fun. But I just remember sitting there, 10-year-old self, and saying, I have no idea what's happening. And then, they're meeting on the island with the three of them, and three of, Jack and his crew. And I was like, I don't get it. Like I don't get what's happened. But I had so much fun and I got it enough. And and the ending. I mean, the last 40 minutes are a fight sequence. I mean, again, the CG still holds up. And also, when do you see a movie have like 30 plus minutes of just nonstop fighting? Like, they did it in two, even with the sword fight on the island with the chest, and that was spectacular. And then they said, well, how can we do that times 1,000? Well, let's do Up is Down first. Let's do Singapore, which both of those, are insane by themselves. Or I guess the Kraken fight too is amazing and two.
Yeah, there are a lot of
You know what I
practical
mean?
effects
But
in
then
those
it's
too.
then it's like, well, how do you top everything? How do you top everything we've ever done? Well, let's have a 35 minutes. They want to see Davy Jones. I assume they thought that, Davy Jones needs to fight. We need to see the Flying Dutchman be very powerful and strong. Let's have the top two ships here, Black Pearl, Flying Dutchman. Let's have them go at it for like, let's have it pour rain. It's just not going to stop. It's going to just be nonstop fighting. There's all these different groups. We're going to have different, Will and Elizabeth are doing their thing. Barbosa, Jack's going to be fighting Davy Jones. Then we're going to continue that, and Davy Jones will basically fight everybody. It's like, oh my, and let's just have that be the last 40 minutes of the movie. And it will have emotion. We're going to kill some people off. We're going to change the dynamic of Will and Elizabeth's relationship forever. We're going to say goodbye to all of these characters in a perfect way. And maybe it's forever. Maybe we'll, maybe not. I don't know if their mindset was to make a 4, but I mean, just everything worked. The whole movie, but everything worked in those last 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was incredible, and it wasn't just mindless
No, yeah, yeah.
armies smashing into each other. They were all desperately in a
Mm-hmm.
very animalistic and I guess you could say like a feral scrum for
Right.
something very specific.
It's the fight to the last thing. You know what I mean? Like, this is the final. It's not a CG, and Marvel gets a lot of flack for that nowadays. Just CG armies, dying or fighting CG armies. Like, no, yeah, this is Davy
Yeah,
Jones on his last stand. Really, and again, that's why what makes Davy Jones so powerful. Not just from a character and you watch, but also from like to make a movie work. When the chest is not in his possession, you get that he's very. You know what I mean? Like, things are not okay. So if he doesn't have his heart and he doesn't know where it is, or somebody he doesn't like has it, things are going to be like everything's going to be elevated. So he's fighting for his life because Jack has his heart, and you know what Jack's going to do in this situation eventually. So you can't let him go. And this is the fight. Beckett has eliminated all of these pirates. They're hanging them, all of this stuff. And this is the last group. They've assembled the Brethren Court, and we're going to eliminate all of you. So they're fighting for their survival, and the East India Trading Company is fighting for, I guess, to control everything. And they have Davy Jones, and Davy Jones has to go on, but Davy Jones wants the heart back so he can kind of peace out and get away from all of it, really, right? And like, everything just work. All of their motivations make complete sense. It's a fight for their life. Yeah, everything like you said, like raw. Everything feels very raw. Everybody's fight. Elizabeth, when she's fighting, she fights very sloppy against Davy Jones. Very sloppy, but it's just kind of buying time. She's just trying to distract him. So you have to fight like that. And he wins, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy how it all worked.
yeah, and there's it's fights with stakes.
Hmm.
There was always stakes in every single fight in this whole series, from the very first one between Will and Jack all the way up to the last ones. There was always stakes, and I feel like most other movies, especially superhero ones, they don't really have any because they're just punching each other. They're just punching each other for a while, and eventually somebody's gonna lock somebody in a cage, and then they'll break out of that cage and come back in the sequel or whatever.
Right.
But these fights, they were all very mortal. Most people in this thing, besides some of the antagonists, were mortal, and
Hmm.
they had very high stakes. And it was brilliantly shown throughout the third one after Up is Down. Once Jack brings them back to the land of the living, and they all point pistols at each other. It's showing how scared he is to come and face Davy Jones, and it makes sense. He doesn't want to
Oh yeah.
form he doesn't want to have to form the pirates. He doesn't want to have to fight Davy Jones. But then, once he realizes there's no other course, he'll do it and
Right.
he'll pull the trigger on that. And I think that was a huge scene was when they got back and they all had to decide where to go from there because, you know, some had their agendas and others had different ones. And Jack and David Jones both just want to peace out and be free and left alone. But everybody else, they want to politically control the climate. In this case, it's the seas,
Yeah.
and so the main figureheads of the pirates and the East India Trading Company were they were on a head on collision. And so the wild cards and the jokers, they all didn't want to be involved, but they had to be. And that's what made it so fun because it wasn't just, oh, the Imperials versus the Rebels smash the toys together to see who wins. It was throw in these wild cards because we got pirates, so we can have all sorts of self-serving guys like Jack and Davy and the Pintel and Rigetti narrating the whole thing. They
Yeah.
were amazing. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think we're ever going to see guys as perfect as them.
No, no, and then the whole talk with them of coming back for 4, and one of them I think wanted to do it right, and then there were scheduling conflicts. I mean, there's been just so much stuff with those two. There's such, I mean, you can go down the cast, and you talk about Davy Jones, talk about Elizabeth. Jack is the best version. I've always said that this is the best version of Jack Sparrow in any of the
Yeah.
four. Four is number 2 in my opinion. Because he's really good in 4 because he's in it so much, but this
Hmm.
one is like you said, just kind of subtle things where it's like, yeah, he's terrified. He's scared. He just died. You know what I mean? They're afraid of Davy Jones, and that's another thing you have to do in movies or in games, right? You have to have the protagonist fear the antagonist. Otherwise, why should we? If they're not afraid of them, why should we be afraid of them? And Jack is terrified of him, so he does not. And it's in his nature to run away. That's the whole point. And he always
Yep.
runs away. He runs away
We
from
must fight
everything.
to
Yeah,
run away.
to run away, and that's a perfect. I mean, that's again like that's his character from 1, and they somehow, they somehow made that line from it. He always runs. He never wants to pick a fight. He'll fight kind of to defend himself and to get away ultimately, and that's kind of it. He never really fights for like supremacy, or you're never gonna really see him like raiding another ship. That's not, that's not who he is. And they play again like that's we said the men aren't cargo. I mean, there's so many good Jack things where it's like he is a good guy. He's a fundamentally good guy who does not want that kind of stuff. He's not going to imprison people. He's not going to be part of slavery. And he just wants the stuff to end, or he'll just leave it all together. And that's what he's tried to do for 2 and for 3. And yeah, and then like you said, Pintel and Rigetti. I mean, my dear God, in terms of side characters, it doesn't really get better than these characters that you again also understand their motivations, and they're kind of in the middle, but you really like them. They just come across as very likable, and they got to fight a little bit. They got a little time, in terms of action, which I was glad to see, in 2. And yeah, they're just. I wish they could have brought them back. They found a way to bring some of them back for 5, but them coming back would have been pretty special.
Yeah, they had the greatest monologues and arguments.
Oh yeah.
In the second one, they're arguing about religion. He's like, "I think divine providence escaped us from jail," and then he's like, "You can't even read." It's like it's the Bible. You get credit for trying, and they just start squabbling over the moral implications of a man who tries to read the Bible, or is he faking it and therefore committing a sin? It's just
Right.
why would these guys care about that? It's so funny. And then when they're all fighting at the end of the second one, they catch us up. So for me, I completely identify with you on that. These movies are very complex
Yeah.
and they're not written in modern English a lot of the time because they were from hundreds of years ago.
Hmm.
So I was lost a lot of the time too. But when I rewatched them on DVD and everything as a kid, I got it because those two, Pintel and Rigetti, were standing there and they would eventually chime in and help me help us
Yeah.
out. They'd be like, Norrington's in it for himself. So I think he's trying to regain a bit of honor, and then Jack's trying to get away, obviously, and then Will's trying to, save his twice cursed pirate father. It's just like stuff like that. It was so funny to watch them. And then, when the rain is happening, the giant battle at the end of 3, they're like, on top of everything, it's raining. And then they're like, that's a bad sign, because nothing else has been a bad sign, but the rain, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
they're just incredible.
they are. They're special, and you're right. They narrate some of the tougher things. They try to break it down. Like even the Brethren Court's kind of hard to follow too. A lot of stuff's happening. Again, yeah, it's not perfect English. It's kind of, and a lot of these characters mumble, quite a bit. Jack is not speaking English for part of his monologue in that as well, and it's like, what are they saying? What's going on? But yeah, these characters really how and again, I think it's a movie that stands both. You don't really have to have a clue what's going on, and it's just going to be immense fun. And there's also going to be emotion. I can't imagine you get through without some sort of emotion and some of the best fights you've ever seen in cinema. So all that stuff happens if you have no idea what's going on, and of course Jack Sparrow, and he can carry anything, and if you're going to watch something just for Jack, and
Hmm.
as they found out, and then if you do understand it, then there's the lore. Really, everything else is the lore, right? Everything it gets built, and it's just so good. Again, especially compared to modern day. I mean, it's not even close, to be honest with you, in my opinion. How good Pirates was at doing all of that stuff compared to what you said. People try to do now. They want to be pirates. They're not going to admit that, and they want to be pirates, and but they don't know how to start. They don't know how to get there. In my opinion, to be a little mean, a lot of people nowadays don't have the talent. They don't have the writers are not nearly as talented. The
Very
directors
true.
don't have that same vision, as Gore did. Stuff like that. I mean, that stuff is not present nowadays. Even it's not present as much in 4 and 5, in Pirates 4 and 5, because that was kind of unnecessary. Those movies were a little unnecessary. They just wanted to keep them going. I get it, and I will gladly take more with Johnny. Right? I'll gladly take more with Johnny Depp, but at least to send him off, and then you could do spin-offs. But it ended at 3. It really 1 through 3, however they planned it, was perfect in terms of how it can go.
Yeah, Gore thought that three was all he was going to get, so he really did give it such a perfect finish, and the finality of it really felt like um, you could connect to and identify with the characters inside because it was the end of an era for them.
Hmm.
The golden age of piracy was ending, and we're starting to get into the age of imperialism and big, giant, strong navies, and the Americans are going to have their revolution, and they're going to become a superpower, and they're going to dominate the Atlantic and the Pacific. So
Hmm.
then, throughout the years with that happening, the piracy just died, and they all got hanged and murdered, and they really became incredibly rare. And now these days, there's only like three or four because satellite and there's no way you can keep up with the governments of today in
Right.
terms of naval warfare. So it was the end of an era for them, and he made it an end of an era for us because he gave us, I think he probably even knew in the back of his mind, he said, this is going to be the best pirate movie ever made, and I doubt anybody will be able to top it. And so far, they haven't. Nobody's topped
Right.
three, nobody's topped one or two either. Either the one through three, and then I would argue also most of four is just a perfect book. And the
Yeah.
fifth one has its faults and it has its advantages, but I think the fifth one suffered heavily under the new writer and the directors. They were really collaborating with Jerry Bruckheimer, I think, for set pieces on
Yeah.
five. They wanted it to feel like the ride, and I think that's where everybody didn't want it to go. Everybody wanted this thing to be its own universe and story. And anytime critics said, "Oh, it's based on a theme park ride," we all groaned and rolled our eyes because it's more than that. But then with the
Yeah.
fifth one, they finally did kind of prove, yeah, we just kind of want to throw Jack Sparrow in there and not have him say anything of real substance, just kind of have him make noises
When
and
they changed it.
scream.
He changed the character for 5. I really, and watching this Johnny Depp trial, I'm actually very confused specifically on Pirates, because I knew this, but he went more into detail how much he changes characters, right? So he gets Jack and he'll rewrite lines and stuff. It's like, man, I know he was going through a good amount of stuff, when filming Pirates 5. I
Oh
will
yeah,
I will not blame him, but I don't think his head was there either, because if he wrote Jack like that, or he helped write Jack like that, it's his fault too. I will not fault him, because of the other stuff going
yeah.
on.
Whatever his ex-wife was doing to him was
Yeah,
it was beyond his control, and he had to go back to the States to get his finger surgically repaired after
yeah, that was weird.
vodka bottles were thrown at him. So
Yeah.
I understand that he wasn't fully there in it, but some of the things he did rewrite were really my favorite parts because he wrote in Uncle Jack because Keith Richards wasn't available. So
Oh yeah.
he spent one night in his trailer with Paul McCartney, and then the next day, McCartney said that he went on set and he was shocked because Johnny had typed up on a little typewriter everything that they
Oh
had
my
kind
god.
of played off of each other. That's where that whole scene came
Oh, I
from
didn't know that.
with
That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
McCartney was saying in an interview that he typed their jokes and their skits that they were playing out for ideas, and he made a little scene. And so he had his great additions, but yeah,
Yeah.
they were just. I feel like the writer of Jeff Nathanson just kind of missed the point of the series, and
Yeah.
he didn't understand that Jack is supposed to be a philosophical mouthpiece,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so he just kind of made him just this scared guy who's just screaming and running away and saying like,
And a drunk, a true drunk, honestly.
yeah, he just said what was in front of him. He sounded like, a drunk uncle. He's like, oh, shark,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Oh my God.
ship,
Yeah.
darkness, sword. He just said what was in front of him,
Yeah.
or he would wake up and say spaghetti wolves. Like, what on earth?
I
It
know.
just it wasn't Jack, but I understand that. I think that's why he wants to do a sixth one so badly because I think he wants to be able to create, to not create. He wants to be able to faithfully give the character one last go or one or two last goes,
Yeah.
because I don't think he was fully pleased with the way that five turned out, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
It wasn't it wasn't ideal, but one through four for me were just, oh, they were so beautiful, and I'm never gonna have a bad memory thinking about the times that I went to theater to see two through four, and
Yeah.
I'm never gonna I'm never going to stop digging into the deleted scenes and seeing all the extra fun pieces and watching the behind the scenes videos of how they built entire pirate ships
I know. Yeah.
for one through four. They didn't do that for five. They did
No.
green screen, and it's not the same.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I remember being in the theater for I think I had to watch 3 a couple times. 5 was my max. I watched 5 probably in theaters 5 or 6 times just because I was
Hmm.
older and was able to do it more. So I didn't watch 3 all that many times, but 3 is my most watched of in general of any of them. Like there was a time I would watch it at least twice a year, and that for me, it sounds because I know people, from covering other stuff on the channel. There's people I know that have watched like Scream, the Scream franchise. They'll watch Scream like weekly. And it's like
Oh boy.
I don't think I could do that for any movie ever. Like it's just not who I am. I respect it, but I just could never. So for me, when I say 2 or 3 times a year, that's that's a lot. So I would do that for Pirates 3 in particular. Sometimes I'd have marathons. Sometimes I would just watch 2 and 3. Like I said, I could just watch 3. I really don't need to watch 2. If I only have 3 hours and not 5, I can just pick up at 3 and from beginning to end. I mean, oh my, it's just got the Singapore, and then it goes when Tia Adama's talking about Davy Jones, right? Like the devil of the sea, and then you see the ship come up and the music, his theme that's playing in the background is
Oh,
just it like it
it's
gives me
amazing.
chills. Yeah, and then he's playing on the piano and he's depressed. It's like, oh, like from beginning to end, I don't get the hate. I always try to see all sides of stuff, and I get people that I respect people that don't like stuff I like stuff I don't like, but I just
Hmm.
I don't know. I've always liked 3 more than 1, and I guess 1 is kind of just so pure. But like I don't know, Jack is better in my opinion in 3 than he is in 1. Davy Jones is much better than Barbosa as a villain. Barbosa has
Hmm.
become one of one of the best characters in the whole franchise, I think. And
Definitely.
and 3 really helped. 3 really helps Barbosa, obviously, because if you don't have him for that, but in 4 and 5, he freaking crushed it as well. But I mean, just everything in 3 it is big, it is confusing, but I don't know. I mean, it's got all the hallmarks you'd want: strong female, action, emotion. It makes sense. You may have to watch it more than once, I guess, but it makes sense. I really don't get what the gripe with. I think to what you said earlier, it's weird because I've seen what you've said with critics, but I also think critics liked 1 because of the more simplistic approach, and then as it got too big and it started to expand its lore, critics really docked it, where it's like it should go back to 1. And in a way, I get it. Like as you get bigger, it gets a little messier, but also they don't hold the same standards for Marvel or DC, right? Stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I like it more. I mean, if you're gonna make it a franchise, you have to do. And I think because they made it now, maybe you didn't have to make 2 and 3 or and on, but because you did, I don't think there's a better way of doing it that like I said in the very beginning. What I mean? It makes sense. Everything makes sense. The lore. There's a little questions with Davy Jones and the heart and kind of the swapping, like how the leader of the Dutchman happens, but really 5 ruined that, more than three established it. 5 made it
Oh
more
yeah.
confusing with how the
5
rule.
really hurt
Yeah,
our lore
the
because there's
lore.
also
Yeah.
the compass. I was gonna ask you about this.
Oh my god, the company. Yeah,
I
it broke it.
I
Like
heard you
broke.
cover it
Yeah.
in 2017. I was watching your videos and I was just saying like I agree with this man because how do you explain such a huge discrepancy when Teodalma literally Calypso literally told him the compass you bartered from me.
Right.
So we either have to believe that he got this compass, lost it, or traded it, and then got it back from Calypso. Like that, the way it was presented in 5 was this is him receiving his lightsaber, and he never lets it leave his side. Like Luke never lets it leave his side, for
Right.
example.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Yeah, that was
They really
upsetting.
stomped on the lore with the curses and
Yeah.
the compass. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, well, 3, like I mean, like you said, 3 established all of it. 3, in my opinion, is the biggest gold mine of lore data, that we have for pirates. 1 is very easy. It's not much. It keeps things vague, and I do think that's good for it, right? Even like why is Jack the way Jack is? And the answer is kind of, just that he's crazy. He's been out in sea, which was Johnny's idea, right? We've heard him say that it was his idea to come up with. The sun rays have like melted his brain. So it's very simplistic. And then 2, it's like, okay, he does have a backstory and he met this devil. And what's up with Davy Jones? How long has this been happening? Has this always happened? And then 3 is just, okay, now we get pirate lords and we get I mean, it's just so big. And then 5, weirdly enough, 5 goes more minimalist. It goes backwards in terms of trying to keep things smaller. And and in doing so, it ruins it all. Well, I thought I understood how the curse of Davy Jones. It's not even, well, is it I don't remember the deleted scene where he's talking about the Geish or whatever the phrase is, right? But like it was pretty well established how it works in 3, and then in 5, it was like, nah, I think you're stretching it, and you didn't need to stretch it. You just wanted Will back. I think there's better ways of. I like Poseidon. The idea of Poseidon existing, that's fine. I think that's
Yeah,
good. I think that should be what 6 is. But besides Poseidon, the rest of 5 really hurt the established lore that was mainly started, I'd say, or the most of it we got was in 3.
yeah, because 3 was when they made the decisions to tie in everything from 1
Right.
to 3. So they wanted to say the reason that Will made the sword, they wanted fate to be a huge part of the trilogy.
Right.
So, fate is such a weird um, thing, and it's very coincidental because something that you do in your past can come back and ripples like dropping rocks in a pond. So when he made the sword, it ended up in his heart. He made he trained in swordplay and he ended up having to fight some of the most scary and
Yeah.
skilled swordsmen on the seven seas. And then so and that's just Will. We could talk about all the other characters and how one little thing they did in 1 ended up rippling into 3. But yeah, 5 they really wanted to find an excuse to do things, and it really it's almost like political correctness in a way because now yeah I can't say the word curse when I'm talking about pirates because I'm going to confuse people because I'm some people are going to be like, oh, all the curses at sea, try it beside it, and then other people are going to be like, it's not a curse, that's just it's a task given by Calypso. Like she didn't
Right.
curse him, he cursed
Right.
himself by not doing the task. So the thing is, if Will's son had broke the trident, I think that the only thing that should have happened to Will is that he should have been given a clean slate for any souls that he failed to ferry.
Right.
So the curse aspect of it is not doing the job, but the job is still yours to do,
Right.
which is probably why they had that strange post credit scene with him um,
Yeah.
either hallucinating or not hallucinating that Davy Jones was in his bedroom with him and his wife
Yeah.
in the middle of the night. So he shouldn't have been able to leave the ship
It is now you're
because
just
the
I
way
mean,
that
there is no farrier now of souls. It's like that's a part of the world. You need like that's somebody who exists. You can't stop that. I don't want to give it to him. I'm not going to give it to him. But if in
yeah
6, they established, okay, you have to overlook the curse part, but he quit because the trident allowed him to quit for some reason, but literally you can't quit that life. So we have to bring Davy Jones, like, Bill Nye back to do this. It's like, all right, I'll follow it. I'll see where you're going with it. But ultimately, even if we did get a six, I don't know. There's no way you continue it from how you did with five. Maybe Davy Jones could still come back, but and Will could hopefully come back, but I don't think you could pick it up right after five if you did a six. I don't know. I wish every night for a Pirates six, but this court case obviously is important, and I really don't think it'll ever happen, and that's like one of the saddest things to admit out loud because
Yeah.
it's so sad that they ruined it. Amber ruined it. Disney ruined it because they had something, and that's again what this discussion is: how special one through three, four for some people, and then five was okay. I like five overall, but these movies are so special. Jack Sparrow is so special, and we leave it here. We leave it after five. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm so happy he got the ending he did in 5 because if he didn't,
Oh
oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God, I would have rioted because he just never got
Yeah,
that,
I don't
you
mind the
know.
ending of I think the ending of five is very much three. It's as close as they probably could have gotten to three. Um,
Yeah, frankly, I would splice I would splice the ending of 5
with three.
and just put it on to the end of either 3 or 4, like,
Yeah.
probably the end of 4. I would say he steals something from Barbosa that lets him get his ship out, and then he
Yeah.
and Gibbs let the ship out, and then they try to recruit a crew,
Yeah.
something like that. I just I
Yeah,
I
they're all
don't
solid. Three's ending is perfect. I think
yeah
in terms of he's gonna keep going. It's what we expect from him. He's not gonna stop. He's not gonna retire. He's gonna and he's he stole he stole the map from Barbosa, and it's like he would do that. He would go searching. He's looking for a and it really is a perfect kind of ending where you can very easily make a four. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't, but you could very easily say, all right, well, what was on that map? You saw the hints, you saw the same exact symbols, they copied them, right? So like you knew what the idea was, a fountain of youth like thing, and I guess Barbosa said it right, and then
yeah
but you don't have to. You could just say, well, he is always searching for this stuff, and he's always going to be Jack Sparrow, and he's just floating away. Like he'll always be there. So you could have left it, and then four
yeah
arguably is the same because he has an amazing that monologue at the end of four is perfect. And it's larger than life. It's really 4D, like you said. It's more talking to us about the character Jack Sparrow, not about him in that moment, really. So that was perfect. And he'll get the pearl, and you don't necessarily need to see that. That's fine. And then five is fine. Five's probably my least favorite of the three endings, but it's okay. It's just it also is like leading, and they said this was the beginning. What they say, beginning of the end, or whatever line they used, remember in the promotion, or like
yeah
part one of a part two journey. So there was gonna be a six, and they knew that, and they said it out loud, and it was even in the trailers or TV spots. So like so I guess what I'm saying is when he says that at the end about the his beloved horizon, in my mind, because I know the behind the scenes, which is not the movie's fault. I'm thinking, well, he still is gonna do another adventure, and I need to see that adventure. You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel as final. Weirdly, even though it's open, three and four are open, it doesn't feel as final as it should have in five because of all the behind the scenes talk. And then you leave it there, and it's like, well, but I knew he was going to go somewhere else. He was supposed to do one final thing. So what's that thing?
yeah. And Kaya Scodelario, she's under contract for a sixth one, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hopefully, if they ever did bother, I honestly think they're waiting to see what happens in Virginia
I hope.
before they make a move because it seems to be what they're doing because they're not moving forward with the Margot Robbie one because
Yeah.
they announced it. They got such a blowback, and we haven't heard a peep since. And she keeps signing on to all these other projects. It doesn't look like she's
Yeah.
actually planning on going through with that. I think that Disney they all hung their phones up and once they saw the feedback, no Johnny, no Pirates, and I think that they're just waiting to see
Oh,
what
and
happens.
there's more, like we can kind of infer, right? There's more than one script for six, one with him, one without him, kind of.
Yeah, they're
It's not,
definitely playing with
it's,
ideas.
yeah, I mean, and that was like 2+ years ago. We got that kind of, I think that it sounded like that was kind of set in stone where it does seem like there's a script with him in it and there's a script without him in it, and they're leaning, without him. But like you said, I mean, this would be and I'm waiting because it would be hilarious and it would be just the greatest thing ever. Like if he whether well if he wins and they still don't do it, Or if they then make the Margot Robbie one, uh, like there needs to be like a public
Inexcusable.
there needs to be a public execution for that. Like I don't you know what I mean? It's like how do you inexcusable. Nobody should see it. And I would argue the same thing if he loses, honestly, because it's proven now, enough stuff where at best for Amber they're equals. So at best you look like hypocrites. At worst you're despicable human beings, these Disney executives. So, that's not I guess that's not pulling any punches there, right? But
But
so
it's honest though, it's like they're definitely all they care about is their pocketbook,
yeah.
and all they care about is their image,
Which
and
is
it's
why they
just
probably
really,
haven't done anything like you said. The pocketbook's the
yeah,
first one because if they I don't know, but sometimes they make it kinda clear they don't care about their pocketbook with certain decisions they make. So
yeah, all the woke stuff, yeah,
oh yeah, with some Marvel stuff, Eternals has lost them money or maybe broke even, but like they're not making great decisions with Marvel. So it's like,
yeah,
really that helps Pirates 6 with Johnny because it's like you're gonna make money. You're gonna at least make money. That's at the least. At most, you're gonna like destroy it in a good way. But even if you don't do Johnny and you do a Pirates 6 without him or a spinoff with Margot or whatever, I want to see that because I like to see things burn, kind of like the Joker. So I want to see these things just go up in flames because it would just be the worst. Even if the movie's good, which I would find hard to believe based off of the Birds of Prey kind of connection with Margot's movie,
yeah,
but even if it's good, it's unexcusable. Or inexcusable in terms of you know uh, it happening, the idea of it happening, and so I'd like to see it because I want to see a movie make 100 million off a 250 million budget. Pirates of the Caribbean gets destroyed. Justice for Johnny Depp. I mean, all that stuff would happen. So go ahead, try it.
yeah. Just look at Warner Brothers. They decided that they didn't want him
Oh
in
yeah, that
to
worked out
finish
really well
Fantastic
for them.
Beasts.
Yeah,
They're not going to break even. It might not even hit 500 million worldwide.
yeah.
People made an obvious. They made a statement long ago, and they said, "You've done this, so we're going to hit you in the pocketbook." And they said, "You know what? We're going to go forward with Mads Mikkelsen of all people."
Yeah,
And we hit him in the pocketbook.
yeah.
Like, look at the difference in just a few months. Batman made a ton of money. It was successful. Everybody was loving it. But then, you can't blame the pandemic for
No,
the
yeah.
failure of
No.
Fantastic Beasts 3
There's a
because it
lot of
got
excuses you could. I mean, you have Ezra doing some just phenomenal things, and then you have
just
Amber.
yesterday there was another one. Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday, so that was fun, and then Amber is still in Aquaman 2 is gonna be spectacular. I can't
Oh,
wait to see that, but, yeah, no, people have I feel bad because, I cover Hogwarts and stuff, and there's a lot of diehard wizarding people, and they get kinda mad at me, when I talk I don't want the movies to fail. I don't want the thing that Fantastic Beasts is, this wizarding world. I mean, that's special to people in the same way Pirates is special to others or whatever, but, yeah, I mean
yeah. But sometimes when you have to stand on
we have to yeah,
principle,
they have to pay. They have to pay for that
yeah,
somehow. You don't get away, and it's not just Johnny at this point. Right now, Ezra's, like,
yeah,
daily attacking people. So it's like these people deserve punishment. Ezra deserves punishment. Warner Bros. Deserves punishment, and if that punishment comes in the way, yeah, does it suck that we won't see that 4 or 5 of Fantastic Beasts and Grindelwald and Dumbledore fighting, which is supposed to happen in 5, that epic fight? Well, yeah, but I would want it as Johnny Depp, that because it was supposed to be that. So,
yeah.
you
Like
have to
he was
make sacrifices.
specifically cast.
Yeah, it was yeah, and, I don't know, and JK obviously has her own stuff, and she stood with him as long as she could, and then she had to even let him go. So these people, I hope they feel. I said this on Twitter actually right before we got on. I hope these executives, they're watching, right? Jerry
Hmm.
Bruckheimer, I'm sure, is watching. Disney executives, higher ups, they're all watching. I hope they hate themselves right now. Hate themselves.
Yeah,
Disney for
she,
Pirates,
yeah,
Warner Bros for Fantastic Beasts and Aquaman, all these people, but specifically, because we're talking about pirates, any Disney exec, that pulled we know that. I don't know how good the proof is going to be of definitively, but if there was an executive that once promised him a 6 and then took that away, I hope that person really hates themselves right now.
yeah. I hope their cereal is full of bird droppings because you don't do that. That's sacrilegious. It's
Yeah.
wrong, and it's not his fault, honestly, because what what happened was he didn't even say or do anything. It
Yeah.
was articles written about him by someone else. So it's like he didn't even the media likes to say he drags Disney into the cake. No, she did. She's trying to call on Disney to say, you fired him because he was late. And he's like, no, I worked with Disney for like 20, 30 years before you came along. I actually had a good relationship with them before you cut off my finger. And I, had problems on the set of Five because of you. He's like, so I actually had a great relationship until you started lying about me in the press. And then, once the press goes around, and then the studios get scared because they think, oh crap, what if
Yeah,
people see our product in this light? Because that's how they see these people as products, and
right.
it's crazy.
What
And that's what happened to JK. She got thrown under the bus. They hide her in all of the promotions. They hide her on the red carpets because they're scared of the lobby of minority, the small minority of angry voices against her. Like
yeah.
they're scared of those of
But the Johnny
the
stuff never made
activists.
sense to me in terms of, we know these people don't have the greatest morals just in general, like, very, very wish-washy, and the public opinion has always been on his side, the articles and stuff has always been on hers, but people have always, I think, supported him, and it's just gotten louder and bigger recently,
Yeah,
so,
you
uh
don't spend 30, 40 years in an industry being
well, it's
as
just
good
insane. I
as
mean,
that.
when it started, and they're firing him, it's like there's nobody congratulating you, right? Like you think when
Yeah,
they're doing it, they're playing off to, these 10,000 people on Twitter, the same group. It's more, let's say like 1 or 2 million that use Twitter. They're the only people that use Twitter, and you're they're congratulating you. That didn't even happen for him. You
yeah,
didn't even get, oh yeah, you got rid of the abuser. It's like, no, immediately it was a justice for Johnny movement. So it's like it didn't.
everybody was scratching their heads because
Yeah,
we're like, this does not add up. You claim this, but we have this disproving it. So then then it just
announcing a Pirate 6 with him would blow up the internet. And the amount of people upset about it, I don't even know if they would exist, to be honest. Like
yeah,
How many Amber bot accounts exist? Those are the only people. I really think
literally just a few. Yeah,
like, that's
and
it. There's really
some of them are
not
probably her.
people there. I just don't see, we can say that for Marvel and DC, like, yeah, there's, like, groups of people that are maybe bigger than sometimes we give them credit for, like, we say they're so small, maybe there's a little bit more than we think, but specifically for Amber Heard, I really if they announced a Pirate 6 with Johnny, I really don't see online who is getting upset about that. I don't. I don't understand.
Yeah, no, there's an enormous following at this point. Like it's spread everywhere too. Like even TikTok, you're
Yeah.
getting like 5
Oh,
million
yeah, my
likes.
wife watches TikTok, and they were doing summaries, and these are people that they're all females, actually. The ones doing, summaries and
Yeah,
TikToks, all females, all support young. I'm not talking 60-year-olds, right? They're young girls, 20, 30s, recapping the day, siding 110% with him. It's, and people not on the internet, I've said, like, my mom's 60. She doesn't do this stuff, but she's a diehard Johnny Depp person. She's always supported him, so it's bigger than the internet. It's not going to work. It's not going to anything against him is not going to work. So try it again. I would say try it, but hopefully they don't try it, and hopefully they actually make a six. Like I said, I appreciate your optimism. I don't share it, but
yeah. I mean, I based on the contracts and based on the fact that not even a script has been submitted, I think
true,
that
true, true.
they're definitely sitting on.
Yeah, they are.
They want to do at least one
But
more with.
are they sitting on it because they're worried that when they announce it without him, they're gonna, but I guess you could argue, right? So maybe they'll change it, but I mean, so it's like they're waiting for the trial, maybe waiting a little bit longer, submitting it, and it's the version without him. And they're just gonna kind of take that hit, but they're almost afraid. It's like a Hogwarts Legacy. They're afraid to take the hit, but they know the hit's coming. So eventually they'll announce it and show, you know what I mean? So something like that would be the devil's advocate.
Yeah,
Uh, but again, that's glory. It'll be glorious because they'll announce it. Imagine the day that discussing film on Twitter, announces Pirate 6. The script deadline reports, Variety reports, no Johnny Depp, but it's official. Pirate 6. It's going to be filming next year or this October. Like imagine that day. It's going to be horrible, horrible for them.
yeah, and I
So
think they know that. They saw all of the feedback when they tried to announce the other one
yeah,
with the
yeah,
Deadpool writers and everything. So they just they've skipped over so many creatives. They've had so many people come in and try to do something and then eventually leave, like the Deadpool writers. And
yeah,
one of the two directors of the fifth one isn't interested in being involved, so only one of them is going to be directing it if it's done.
right.
And they've talked to other directors, and it just I'm not surprised that it's such a weird process. And I'm not surprised either that Margot's wasn't. It wasn't officially announced by Disney, and that's telling. It was
Yeah,
announced by leakers,
yeah,
so
and
I'm
then
not
her it's like a
surprised
product
that.
and it's like a production company she has too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they definitely told her like, "Oh, we're interested in developing that," and then she told everybody,
Yeah.
and everybody was like, "No." So I think then they saw that and they were like, um, yeah, let's get back to that at some point. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they they really have just
Well,
stalled,
what sucks
and
though
it's
is
so
I like
strange.
her and I kinda want her in a Pirates. Like, I have no problem, with her being in. If she wants to be a co-lead of 6 with Johnny, fine, that'd be cool, actually, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
mind that at all.
as long as she doesn't bring her, I'm the
Yeah,
first female of pirates on because she missed the mark. So that was so tone deaf because there's not just Elizabeth, there's tons of them.
yeah,
There's tons of, and I cannot believe she said that because it's the franchise with the most, the biggest major franchise with the best female leads in it. Like
yeah.
Star Wars didn't come close to what they achieved,
No,
and
yeah,
Lord of
no.
the Rings was relatively close. They had Galadriel, they had Aragorn's
Yeah,
elvish wife. Like they had some, and they had the woman Eowyn from Rohan. She was the daughter of the king Rohan. They had some, but it wasn't quite as good.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's yeah
Elizabeth
they
Elizabeth was so and you go down the list of like you said, and we're missing ones in 1 and 2. You got Tia Dama, you got, Karina in 5. I mean, there's just so
Anna
many of them.
Maria.
I was shocked. I was shocked when she said that. I made a
Yeah,
video on it, so it was fine. But
I loved that video.
yeah,
Yes.
oh my god. But yeah, I wanna see it. It sucks. Pirates 3 was the best one to me, and, they've never reached it. I don't think it's fair that to expect them to ever reach it again, I'd argue, but, um, just such a special I mean, there's a reason why people are like the way I guess we are, right? Why we debate 4 and 5's, positives and negatives, and why we want a 6, and why we feel so hurt basically about, like, a comment like that from Margot Robbie. It's like you don't understand the franchise, and we do. And
Yeah, it's
and there's
clear she never watched the third one. It's very
yeah,
clear.
very clear. Or even 5, even the most recent one with
Yeah.
her literally, that dynamic was 5. Without those 2, there literally was not a 5. So, yeah, she must have skipped around. She probably watched 1 because 1 is Elizabeth in the most lady damsel in distress like, right? That's
And then she ends up going and saving Will. It's like
yeah.
even the damsel in distress
And
flips it on
kills
its
our
head by the
protagonist
end.
and kills the
Yeah.
protagonist. So, yeah, she literally
Ugh.
does everything that you would, ever could expect somebody to do. So, yeah.
And what did you think about that Pirates of the Caribbean online game? Did you ever play the
I
massive multiplayer
I
thing?
came in, I think, right at the end, so I don't think and in my growing up, we didn't have, like, strong computers or anything. I even tried to convince my dad to let me do I was gonna pay him to do World of Warcraft, and he wouldn't let me do it. But no, I played, like, Toontown and, Club Penguin and stuff like that. But no, I heard about it, like, I know about the game, and, I've pitched the idea before on the channel to do a Pirates RPG, an open world RPG, I think would be not Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves serves its purpose. Skull and Bones will serve its purpose. I think. I don't. I'm
If it
excited
ever
for
comes
Skull.
out, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'll honestly come out this fall, which will be freaking insane because we talked about it when 5 came out. Five
Yeah.
literally 5 years ago. Tyler and I, right, where we're like, oh my god, this lines up perfectly. Pirates is back. 5 is out. 6 will be out. This pirate game is going to be out. We thought we hit the jackpot, and little did we know that literally everything would fall. But no, yeah. So I would want that. I think. I mean, my God, imagine a Witcher game, Witcher 3, but imagine that being a pirates, setting. I mean, come on, what do I have to do?
Yeah, I'm desperate for just something, just just give me an RPG because then I can live in this world constantly without
Yeah,
having to worry about all the ridiculous stuff that they're doing. So I would love it because,
it's right
you know,
there. It's right there for somebody, and I don't know. Do I need to open a studio of my own in order to get this thing going? Maybe
it's free
eventually.
money, man.
I know. Yeah. Somebody should take that offer up. And as I trust me, there's a friend of mine that made a game I made on the channel. It was an indie game, so I was kind of joking with him. But anytime I get the opportunity, I suggest to people make a Pirates game. So one day I'll talk to the right person, I guess.
Yeah, someday you'll hit the guy and they'll be like, oh, yeah. I mean, we're making
There's just
50
well,
million Star
see, there's
Wars
a lot
games.
with Johnny is the issue. The guy who plays Jack in Kingdom Hearts and in Sea of Thieves, or yeah, Sea of Thieves, the Pirates
Yeah.
expansion. I talked to him and I was gonna have him on to interview, and basically he got scared off from the stuff that he's not allowed to say almost anything. And
Oh, yeah.
Disney's very strict with questions and answers and stuff. So he thanked me and, he said he wanted to, but he couldn't. And so that was a fun behind the scenes story that happened last June. Or when it happened, I messaged him. So I think there's a lot of stuff we don't even fully know, you know what I mean, in terms of what they're allowed to say and not allowed. And they walk on eggshells, basically, a lot of these people.
Yeah, I don't blame that guy at all. He did a great job with Sea of
Yeah, I
Thieves.
like him.
It was beautiful to see that stuff again in a video game. I'm not very good at Sea of Thieves, but
No, me neither.
I tried a little bit of it. But I just, I wish that they had done Pirates in a different arena. But yeah, it's not his fault at all. I don't blame that guy one bit. He
Yeah.
he did his job, and he gave us something that, even if they wanted Johnny for that stuff, I mean, he was busy at the time anyway. He had a
Yeah.
lot going on, so it's like, I get it. It's not even this guy's fault, but
Yeah.
he had admirable job as an interim.
Yeah. I liked him in Kingdom Hearts. I think he did Kingdom Hearts 2, and then I thought the guy for 3 was different because it was better. It was a lot better version of Jack in Kingdom Hearts 3 than 2, but it was the same guy. And so I think he just got better over time.
Yeah, the third one was so fun.
Oh yeah, it's literally at World's. I mean, speaking of it's literally at World's End, which is so good. And Nomura has always said this. The Tetsuya Nomura, the director, that's his, I believe, favorite Pirates movie, and Pirates is one of his favorite franchises as well. And or his favorite, that 3 is his favorite Pirates of the Caribbean film of the 5, and that Pirates is a very good, it's a franchise he loves. So he wanted that in there, and they did it honestly perfect. Like it's so good.
Yeah, they nailed it. I saw the cutscenes and I was like,
Yeah,
this
the
is
cutscenes are
beautiful.
enough. I mean, the cutscenes, everything you need to. The lighting, Davy Jones' locker, the fighting at the end. I saw a picture. There's a picture of the stabbing of his heart with Jack next to Will and Elizabeth. I saw a picture from far away. Okay, my eyesight is going, but I thought it was the movie and it was the game. And I saw it. And
Amazing.
this was a week because I was looking for pictures for thumbnails. So I saw that picture like a week ago, and it was the game. I thought was the movie. And I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's a love letter in that case.
Yeah, oh yeah, he loves it. So that I would consider that a love letter too, and that shows Johnny's and Jack Sparrow's staying power. Why are you putting him in Sea of Thieves literally last June if you know you want this character dead and buried? That's another thing. Very conflicting kind of thoughts about it. It's like they want Jack because they know Jack sells, but you can't have John, or they think you can't have Johnny, so they try to have it both ways. Doesn't exactly work.
Yeah, not at all. And I mean, we're all excited for anything that he would do and anything that he would be in, and their downloads skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah, it was
Like they
it
were,
was a top selling game all through June and July, and it was a Game Pass game, and people were still buying the game anyway. So it just, oh my god, I mean, it sold so well, and we support the. I mean, it's not him doing the voice, but we understand the power of Jack and all that stuff. But it's eventually will catch up to them if they try to pull this in the movie. See, I would think it's the most in what's the word, insulting. It would be the most insulting thing in the world if you did make a movie without him, but you mentioned his name. If they have
oh,
the guts, if they have the guts, I I would maybe give them credit because of how stupid it is. But in Margot's or whatever, if they did it without him, they made it very clear they're done. And you mentioned Jack Sparrow in that film, oh my god,
yeah, because he was mentioned heavily throughout five by characters
yeah,
weren't even that didn't even know him.
right.
So yeah, if they tried to pull that crap,
Or
man,
5 when he
ooh,
wasn't in it was still kind of his legacy and people knowing who he was, which is fine when he's in the movie, and you
yeah,
have a
yeah.
whole movie of them talking about him, and we know the behind the scenes, so, like, you shunned him, you kicked him out of your castle, you didn't bring him back, and then you have the guts to talk about him as if he's like a friendly face in this franchise. F you know what I mean? It's like that kind of stuff.
They used him so heavily in the marketing for five as well, which is over a year after the crazy accusations.
Right.
Um, so they obviously didn't have qualms about associating with them post, um, ex-wife craziness.
Right.
So I don't understand why they suddenly do now, just because he's doing what any self-respecting person should do, which is sue
Defend.
someone who lies about you. So like, because the biggest thing is his kids.
Yeah.
So like, your kids don't, nobody's kids deserve to
Well,
be,
Disney loves kids. We know that.
yeah, they don't deserve to have that kind of thing said about their father if it's not true. So it's
Yeah.
like, there's, I'm shocked that they ever did stop really associating with him or developing Six actively with him as a writer, because he was fine in 2017. Nothing changed between then and now.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. All
like,
this,
it's very
yeah, all the
strange.
stuff was before it. Yep. They don't care, but they certainly love your children. That's for that's for sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other episode about the ones that got fired for everything they were doing at Disney and they exposed for different reasons. And
It's
and
a
now
great.
this,
It's a great company.
yeah, it's wonderful. They never do anything wrong to
Yeah,
children.
they're the moral high ground. Johnny is the devil. Amber's just this. She can't do any wrong. And Disney are like our saviors. They really. People are waking up. People are waking up, and that's what this movement is about. And again, you go back to the movies. Why? Why does he have justice for Johnny Depp? He is just, without pirates, I don't think it would be nearly as big of a deal, or he wouldn't be the kind of. Well, he admitted that, right? Pirates is what changed his life. So without
Yeah, he
pirates,
had to get the
he's
security and
not
everything.
the
Yeah,
yeah, he's not the mega star he is now if he didn't do pirates. So that stuff touched people. I mean, it did. I supported him off the starting line because I love Jack, right? And I love the movies. And then you realize he's a human being and he's a person and all that stuff. And that kind of the stuff with his case is not even a biasness towards Jack Sparrow. Now it's like him as a human being. But there's a reason why people are paying attention. We're not, it's stupid to kind of dance around that. Like a lot of people care because he's their childhood. He was Edward Scissorhands, or he was this or that. You know what I mean? So he's
and it's
special to
also
people.
so rare to see such a public, dramatic case
Yeah.
have such one-sided evidence. Like, you can see so clearly how many legal teams she's fired, and
Oh, yeah, and
the
didn't want it. Didn't
floundering.
want it in the court. The
Yeah,
stuff
the
she never wanted to get this far, and now they're gonna
like, they're
do
just
as good as they
floundering.
can. Yeah.
They have no case, and it's so obvious that they have no case.
Yeah, they're
So
just
it's
gonna have
like,
a couple people will say it happened. It'll be her and two others, and they can all get their stories straight, obviously, because they can just talk to each other, and that's the only proof you have. You don't have anything else. So,
and
God,
Virginia apparently has incredibly strict hearsay laws. Like, I've been watching the trial. I see so many objections over
oh my
hearsay.
God,
Like,
yeah,
she told me this. Oh, that's hearsay. So now I'm thinking her whole case is done, because her entire case was Rocky and Josh and IO were
yeah,
told by me that I was being, the medical professional saw no injuries. I didn't report any injuries, and here are pictures of me after I said that I was beaten and slammed into a fridge and cut and slammed through a table and shot 50 times, and then burned by fire and like glass, like, and shot with a cannon. Here's pictures of me the very next, hour or
reported,
day with no injuries. And I'm like, it's just, your whole case is gone now, because Virginia's very strict about hearsay.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like, I just hope that they do the right thing. I
I
hope
know.
that
I'm
they
I'm I'm hoping for
review
this
everything.
jury that they. I don't know. I
And
hope
two
the jury.
jurors have already gone sick. So I'm really, really hoping that um, Murdoch and Musk are completely uninvolved in any of these events. I
Yeah,
hope they just shut up, sit on the sidelines, because Murdoch definitely had a hand in the UK one.
yeah.
That judge had a son who was on a board of Murdoch's media companies. I'm like, it's just too many conflicts of interest. So hopefully the jury remains pure and level-headed, and they look at all the evidence that we've seen, because they'll come to the same conclusion. It's self-evident.
Yeah. There's no. I mean, we're all seeing it. The public, hundreds of thousands of people are seeing whether he wins or loses. They're hearing him today, yesterday, or whenever this video goes up or this podcast, right? I mean, you're
Yeah,
hearing him talk, and you could say he's lying, but he's speaking. He's speaking his truth. That's what he's doing, and you
yeah,
know,
and the evidence is self-evident. So it's just a matter of staying focused. If you're in that room and you have to deliberate on this, just stay focused on what it's about, what
yeah,
the article was about, what she said, and everything, just ignore the craziness, ignore the hyperbole, and
He's got
just
a way with
s-
words, man. I mean, if you heard him talk, he's just he tells stories that you don't understand how anybody can finish them or like circle back around, and he does it. Like he'll just tell these random 10-minute long stories. Doesn't really feel like he knows where he's going, and yet he he makes it work. And
and then he connects it, yeah, because
it
he
can
wants to
add.
give
He's
everyone the
he,
backstory
he's a
of,
legitimate guy to me.
yeah,
He's said stuff in the past I don't like. He's gone he's done stuff, but in terms of him being, I think, just a genuine person who also has made mistakes and it has things happen to him. Many things happen to him. I believe him. I believe he's made mistakes. I believe he's not perfect. But it's not really about that. Pirates, Jack Sparrow going like a sixth movie. It's not about that stuff. It's about really, again, doing what's right. It's not. It was
yeah,
not right to fire him. It wasn't. Or then you better be firing her, and I'm not really a big fan of cancel culture, unless, of course, she deserves it, which, let's be honest, it seems like only one of them should be thrown in jail at this moment. So I don't know.
yeah. If Harvey Weinstein got ostracized, I think she should, because she's almost had the same pattern of insanity as he has. Like, she's abused men and women,
Yeah.
and she's lied to multiple countries' governments about very serious matters, like biosecurity laws, when she was lying to the Australian government about smuggling the dogs, and she threatened people's careers, like private assistants. She used children too. She grabbed Kate James's child for a paparazzi shoot to make it look like she was a motherly figure. And I'm like, it's just, yeah, people like that, people that psychotic and who won't admit to a lie and just build more and more after, they just need to be locked away. Like, it's not safe. She shouldn't be around, children or other people. And it's sad that she'll probably get a slap on the wrist if she does lose or whatever. She'll have to pay him, obviously, but
Yeah.
um she's probably gonna get a slap on the wrist, and
Let's
he
write a book.
discovered she's not paying her own legal fees, so whoever's paying her legal fees will probably just pay the fine.
True.
So it is
Mhm.
what it is, but it's so separate, and this industry needs to start learning how to separate the tabloids from professionalism, because if they were professional, he would have stayed on his projects, because his word should matter just as much, if not more, than hers.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
when he says, "I didn't do any of that," you're innocent until proven guilty. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be the other way around. So when he says
100%.
I didn't do any of that, it's insane that he's had to spill his entire life out with all this evidence just to prove it. It's crazy
Yeah,
to me
she
that,
she needs to. Yeah,
yeah, the
that's the
burden of
thing.
proof is
With
on her,
we're
and she has none.
yep, we're seeing that in life nowadays. The whole guilty, now it's guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, it's the
You
cancel
don't
culture.
you don't have to do that. You're supposed to prove the other person. You're the attacker. Amber is supposed to prove that Johnny did that stuff, and proof is not words. It's not
Yeah,
I said, he said. You have to show evidence, and until you do that, exactly what you said. His word means exactly. I mean, to be fair, right? Exactly the same as hers. If we're all
yeah,
equal, everybody's equal in this world. If they want to believe that, obviously they don't. But if they did believe it, then yeah, her word, she makes a big deal out of it. He says, nope, didn't do it. All right, well, we're going to put this aside. And if she ever proves it, well, now we're going to have an issue. But,
yeah. Now we can talk to him about,
yeah.
like, did this happen, whatever, and then, yeah, like Harvey, for example, he was a hidden secret. Like, he was an open secret,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
went to women went to him because they wanted the Oscar. They didn't care what he did to them. Like,
Yeah.
Gwyneth
Hollywood is so
Paltrow.
corrupt, and I mean, Ricky Gervais is awesome, right? He calls
Oh
it
yeah,
out, and they're literally friends with Jeffrey Epstein. They're friends with Harvey. These people are just all pretend, and it's good to see somebody, because I do not believe, genuinely in my heart, I don't believe Johnny Depp is pretend. I don't believe he's, some of this. I'm sure he believes the same kind of things that they believe in terms of like political standings, but overall, I do generally believe he's his own person, and he's,
yeah. He was poor. He came out of Kentucky poor and beaten by his mother. Like, he was
yeah,
not
he
born
never
into
wanted
a
any of
silk
this,
cradle.
and he's a introverted person, and just he wants to be a rock, he wants to play music, and he ended up
Yeah,
acting and all that stuff. So yeah, I do. I believe Hollywood is corrupt to the core. I believe Hollywood needs to burn to the ground, to be honest, and Amber and Harvey and all these people with it. But
Yeah.
if you want to throw Johnny in there as in terms of the Hollywood machine, I guess, but I do believe he is an individual, unlike so many of them. So it's good to hear
Yeah,
it. It's good to
Keanu Reeves
finally
is
hear it.
another example.
Yeah,
Like he always does the same kind of thing. He tries to be kind to people, treat everyone else with respect, and he uses his wealth to like help people on set. Like he helps the little people that the studio ignores and that the divas ignore. So
right.
it's like there are some good people. There are a couple good men in this industry. They're
Somewhat.
few and far between, but there's a few, and it just
And what do we do with them? We
it's
kick them out. That's what we
yeah,
do.
if they have the wrong skin color and the wrong gender, then they're
They're gone.
lumped in as part of a power structure that they don't participate in. Like the only people really supporting her call him like an evil white patriarchal male, and he's using male privilege to batter her in the legal system. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's just a dude. Like he's just a
Yeah.
dude who used to be poor who got lied about. Why
Right.
isn't it just in
I mean, how do you listen to? I know it happened literally right before we went on, but how do you listen to his story about the finger? He told that story, today, and I watched it. Like he got up, he like set the scene, and he told the story about his finger. How do you watch that and and believe her? I mean, it's like it's insane. You think somebody came up with that on the fly? You know what I mean? It's like no, maybe you
yeah,
could. I mean, all right, it has been years. You could, I'm sure, fabricate a story, and I'm sure we'll see that with her. I'm sure she'll tell a nice story, but you know what I mean? It's like, how do you watch? And then you see they showed the picture of his finger, which was pretty gross.
exactly. It was
It's
it
like,
was
oh
all
my
backed up
god,
by the medical evidence, and then there's the recording with Dr. Kipper and Nurse Debbie Lloyd looking through the wreckage to find his fingertip because it was cut when the vodka bottle was thrown, but there were a bunch of other bottles thrown, so they
right?
were trying to find his fingertip under which one that hit him.
Yeah,
So it's just like it's all backed up by the evidence of the time. And so, yeah, she can go 5, 6 years later and say and keep changing her story. Like she claims that there's a fridge in one of her stories in Australia that wasn't even created until a couple years after she was there.
oh
So
my
she
god,
claimed that model of a Smeg fridge was in the Australia incident, and her head was slammed inside of it. And we're like, it wasn't even created yet.
like,
So a time traveling refrigerator went back there and slammed your head into it. Okay. He
like,
must be so powerful to summon fridges from the future just to hit your head. Like, oh, it's just yeah. So, it's just I'm looking forward to the end of it. It's going to be a long 4 weeks. But
yeah.
I think once she gets on the stand, it's over because all of her witnesses can be impeached because hearsay, and her stories are insane and ever changing, and they don't line up with the physical evidence that we've gotten. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the end of it, and hopefully, if there ever is an announcement, we can join back up
Oh
and talk
yeah.
about
I
where
mean, we
six would
there's
go.
there's parties that need to be thrown, when that
Yes, yes, it's like the end of Phantom Menace. We'll all just start like
happens.
partying on your channel, partying on here, partying everywhere. Twitter, yeah, it'll be fun. So I
Yeah.
really, really hope that things just finally can right themselves, and we finally get a little bit of justice at the end of this
I
this
hope so, man.
nightmare.
I hope so.
But yeah, back to the thing though. I mean, I want to thank you so much
Yeah.
for talking Pirates 3 because it's always been my favorite movie as well after Princess Bride. Once I saw this, it became my number one was Pirates. So it's always great to talk about it and
Yeah.
relive it, and
Yeah.
it's so cool to find someone else who not only had the same experiences but also was able to build a whole channel celebrating the things that you love. So I
Do you
love your
feel comfortable
positivity.
do you feel comfortable saying how old are you? Are we the
Yeah,
same?
yeah, yeah. I was so when 3 came out, I'm 23 now,
Oh,
gonna be
you're younger than me.
24 in July, so I'm pretty
Wow.
close, but yeah, a couple years, but
Did you say you understood it the first time? Should I be embarrassed that an
hell no,
eight-year-old
hell
understood
no.
it?
Oh no. I had to watch the first one on DVR. I was 6 when I saw the first one. I had to watch
Oh
that one a
my
bunch of
god.
times. I didn't get number 3 until I watched it on DVD a few times because um I had to really piece together the deals made through the whole thing because
Yeah,
I
the
started
deals are the
realizing.
deals are the thing. You have to just follow, who's talking, what are they talking, what are the deals they're making? Do the deals change at any point? Once you
Yeah.
that is the only confusing thing. It really is. But it happens so much with so many characters that it becomes hard to follow. But that could have been because we were 8 and 10. If you're like 15, 16, or if you're now first time watching, you may be able to get it on the first go, honestly.
Oh yeah, you'll watch the dice scene from 2 and you'll understand perfectly. I had to watch it twice as a kid to understand all the rules, and
Oh
then
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
mind-blowing moment for me was in number 3 was when um, Will was sent to the brig after they escaped the East India Trading Company ship, the Endeavor,
Hmm.
and then he broke out and he was trying to leave a trail behind for
Oh
Beckett to
yeah, yeah. That
follow.
was confusing.
When Jack talked to him in that one and they made that pact
Yeah,
of who was going to kill Jones and stuff, that's when I started to understand, like, oh, okay, so
yeah,
Jack's really just playing everybody. He's
right,
trying to tell Will that he'll do it. He's trying to tell, Beckett something else just to get him off his back. He's trying to tell Barbosa something else just to get Barbosa satisfied. But really,
right.
what he wants to do is he's really leaning towards taking Jones's place, but then Will kind of tells him like, it's not going to end well for you. I think that's when I finally started seeing the dominoes fall, and I
Right.
kind of, and then Elizabeth too. She was fighting with Will, so then she had that scene where she told James to come with her, and
Hmm.
it seemed like she was leaning on rekindling their romance and dumping Will
Yeah,
so
oh my
so that
god,
he
yeah,
can go save his dad.
there's subplots of that, of romance, and yeah, that was a super good one. And Jack is smarter than, that's why I love 3, and that's why, again, the critics who didn't like, he's so smart in 3. He's the smartest version of himself, and he's the
Yeah.
stupidest version of himself in 5. That's why I don't
Hmm.
like him the most. So yeah, I mean, all those once you understand that, it's like I don't get how you don't like this movie. This is the best version. Yeah, it's biased, but it's the best version of Jack.
It's the Amadeus of Pirates movies. It's just the masterpiece. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was it's been a great ride, honestly, and hopefully we'll be able to get to the other end of this at some point. And I just thank you for your time and
Of
thanks for coming
course.
out to talk about it. It's so much fun to always go back over it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thanks for putting up with me for an hour and a half. And
Mm.
yeah,
It
hopefully
breezed by for me.
and hopefully we like you said, I hope there's more to this. Pirates 3 doesn't have to be, the last like joyous thing. And 4 and 5, but we can have one more of these. We can. We really can. And hoping. Here's hoping.
Yeah, I just want one more that's kind of like either Dead Man's Chest or Stranger Tides. If they can't hit the pinnacle of 3, at least I just want another 2 or 4
Yeah.
because 6 could be way better than 5. So hoping for that. And but yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead and plug your channel. Like I want people to check your videos out too again because they got me through a lot
Yeah.
of these topics, especially with Harry Potter too, not just pirates.
Yeah, so podcast now is the main, and I make too many videos on it, and I talk about, we did pirates. I mean, I still want to do pirates. Obviously, it's kind of hard at this point because of the Johnny stuff, and doing all those ideas back then kind of ran out of them. But I've done pirates to do pretty much anything that interests me at least a little bit. I've covered the Margot one, and anytime any new, even the ones I'm not going to see them. If they announce a Margot one and it comes out in theaters, I will never pay for that with my
Yeah.
own money, or really anybody's money. So, but I will cover it. So I'm more than willing to cover it and to be fair where it's necessary, but also bash it as often as humanly possible, which I will. And so yeah, so podcast now on YouTube, and I got a Twitter and all that stuff, but you can find everything from the main channel.
Yeah, check him out, guys. It's a really fun channel. I enjoyed it a lot. He makes great stuff, and Hogwarts Legacy especially. He's doing the best coverage on there that I've seen.
Thank you.
So if you guys want to know about that, I'm definitely going to play that game. Screw the people who say I'm not allowed to enjoy it just because of the author. I will love this game. It looks so much fun. So yeah,
Agreed.
check him out for all that.
Thank you.
And yeah, hopefully we actually have more to talk about with pirates in the future. But yeah, I do understand it's dead water right now. They're just sitting on it. They're not announcing anything, and they're writing out this case and they're writing out COVID. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, that's all you can. It's fun to talk about the mysteries of Margot's and the Pirate 6 and those scripts, but because there's just been so little movement on anything. Yeah, it feels very obvious they're waiting at least at least 4 more weeks, and then we'll see what happens in June, July, August.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing I'm probably gonna do is, I'm gonna go back and find all the Young Jack Sparrow books and read those pretty soon, just so I have something to do because I'm kind of missing the series.
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
missing it.
Me too.